and welcome into a very exciting episode of Bear With Us. I'm Chris Bolin, joined as always by Ben Schleiger. Ben, how you doing?
Bittersweet. Yeah, definitely inside baseball. We're doing this on a Monday. Graham passed away, so, shout out Grandma Scroggs. We're doing this one for you. And the Bears did it for themselves. Good for the Bears. Turning it around, making a hopeless season look a little bit hopeful, that things are actually panning out, things actually matter again. Of course not playoffs, because we're deep in the hole at this point, but
Hey, 6-2 in conference is still doable, Ben.
right? Yeah, no, good for the Bears. Just happy to see it win. Gosh, it was much overdue. I mean, we should have won against Weber last year, and we got it done this year.
Yeah, so what we were talking earlier, this is 18 games. This snapped an 18-game losing streak. This was to the date their first win in 23 months, which makes it sound way worse. I mean, it's bad,
Brutal.
but that puts it in perspective a little bit. And the first win since the conception of the Bear Claw Media podcast, Ben, I was starting to think we were bad luck.
Right? Yeah, would hate for it to be us, but no, I don't think so. I think Aunt Lamb and the boys finally figured it out, so good for them. It was an exciting game all around, and just really one of those, I don't know, they kept on cooking, they kept on battling against. It was like, oh wait, we've gotten this many turnovers to go our way. This might actually be our night.
Yeah, so I imagine if you're listening to this podcast, you probably know 21-17 over Weber in Ogden, Utah, moving UNC to 1-6 on the season, 1-2 in conference play. I think the big takeaway from this game was the 5 turnovers, 3 fumbles from Weber State at the goal line, 2 recovered by UNC. They recovered 1 and scored a touchdown on it. Then 2 more fumbles in the second half, and the game-winning or game-sealing interception by Big Sky Defensive Player of the Week, Cam Chappa.
And good for him, and doing it as a freshman too. Kids come up big for us a couple times in games. I believe this second or third interception for him on the year. Yeah, go Cam. Just one of those recruits we were all real excited about. Kind of one of those steals that he could have went to a powerhouse D2. Some FBS teams had him on the radar. Not sure where those offers standed up, but definitely a great talent that we stole from the Fountain, Fort Carson area, I believe. Kind of down there in the Springs.
Him and Corey Jackson Jr. were actually the first 2 commits of this previous recruiting class. And they committed in the locker room after Weber State game last year, which is
Nice.
kind of crazy because anybody who watched that game, this would be the last, using that as an example, this would be the last place I would want to come to play football at. What were they up 21-7 in the fourth quarter? And as Lamb has said, they clinched, or they stole defeat from the jaws of victory in that one. But yeah, first win of the Ed Lamb era too. So he is now 1-16 as the UNC head football coach. But he's got the boys on the right track now, Ben. Where do you want to start? We have a few things we could probably go for.
Gosh, I don't know. A lot of people deserve flowers. I was trying to make sure that got in Brady's comment section for Football 52 this week. He's like, "Wow, Bears fans lots to talk about with Coach." It's yeah, let's highlight the defense. I think the defense has been not getting enough credit because there's been a ton of points on them, ton of yards on them. It's hard, when your offense isn't figuring it out, you're trying your darndest, and then guys just start breaking down physically, whether it's heat, exhaustion from being out there for so many damn plays. Good for them. Rallied, 5 turnovers. 2 of them were solely on Weber, but they didn't capitalize on it. We we got those back from them, whether it was bad snap or just a drop ball. So good for the defense. Um, Good for Kai Keone for him. Little Mesa guy who had like a couple games worth of time at Mesa during his 4 years there. Like really just kind of stepped in a little bit, but never got the shine he deserved. Came out in this game and looked like an absolute hero. I mean, there was on that 20-yard touchdown run he had. Looks like he should own the B button in the college football game. Just spin, spin. Oh nope. National Defender of the Week and preseason like Big Sky like Defensive Player of the Year type nominee. Nope, couldn't get him. Little guy from Mesa scampers for a tutty. So I
Yeah,
think those guys did really good, and I think just like our one constant is the running backs just continually, whether they're having success or not, they're just plugging away on the ground, just giving a full effort, whether the play is going well or not.
yeah. Keone finished 14 for 28 with 118 yards, which it felt way better than that. I don't know exactly what to. It's probably a bit of just how just boring and lifeless the offense has looked throughout most of the year. That like 118, just 28 attempts was something on its own, I think. But this was by far the best. Throwing out, do say what you want about Colorado State because the offense got some good plays there, but like it was weird that the game was like pretty much decided by a lot of that one was just a weird circumstance. So I kind of thrown that one out. I think this was the best the offense has looked all season. By far the best it's looked since Castelli went down. There was some life. It looked with Carver Cheeks move over from safety to receiver has immediately inserted himself into like a very key role. What did he have? He had 4 receptions, 43 yards. Braden Monroe had 3 for 38. It looked like, again, they were kind of making a point to get him the ball, more so in the first half, but they definitely threw the ball a lot more in the first half. And David Afari looked good. He was slippery too. 74 yards on 15 carries. Me, Stewart, and Keone all had rushing touchdowns. So it was nice to see some life out of the offense. I can't point to exactly what Walter Scheid did different this week, but it worked.
Right. Well, and it's also hard because like statistically, none of the performances, even Chappa, none of them really jump out as you as like massively, fat stats type candidates to any degree. It was really just the individual effort on the play in the given scenario or a situation where they were in, where it made more of a difference than it shows on the stat sheet. I mean, CSU was a good game for us. Montana State was good for the stats book, at least in that kind of garbage time against the backups. So, yeah, again, you look at it, it's nothing special on the stat sheet besides the 5 turnovers. But really, the efforts, like, there was competition. People were fighting for yards. Like it was contentious out there. I mean, 21-17, and it felt every bit of it, of just back and forth. Like, once the 14 Weber's second touchdown, that one felt bad. That one took a little bit of wind out of the sails. But like before that,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, this is starting to feel like competitive. It's starting to feel like a little bit of back and forth. Third quarter, definitely. And then it finally came to a point where we had a lead in the game.
That touchdown at the end of the first half was pretty. That backbreaking maybe is a little bit too dramatic, but it sucked. Like it sucked all the energy that like scamper by Keone gave. I think that's the 2-minute defense is still a problem, which is like because Abilene marched down the field, 2 minutes left. I guess the Cal Poly, and you can really, there's not much to take away from the Montana State game. But that really scared me on that last drive when we punted the ball back to him with about a minute left. It just felt like deja vu, and UNC was going to rip our hearts out again. but it is encouraging because this is basically everything went right for UNC. Like the 5 turnovers, you're not going to get that in, like you can't count on that every week. Um, but it was a game they had to win. Like if they were going to take advantage of something, like it kind of fell right into their lap. But this is something they kind of haven't taken advantage of in the past 2 years. So that was really just good to see for that regard too.
Yeah, just a really special like team win. Like offense was doing just enough to keep themselves in the game, keep the team, motivated. Like nobody was getting too down. I mean, going in halftime, that probably felt rough. It's like, here we go. Like just even it up, and there we go. But no, I think it was just a good effort overall. I hate to say it because like I'm sure Lamb's going to be tough on Green again because he had a shank or two this week, but I don't think he deserved at all the guff he got last week, and I think he did solid enough this week. I mean, the missed field goal was a bummer, but like,
That was
what are you gonna
that
do?
was just a quick qualm, I guess. That angle sucked. I hated the angle they showed. It may have been he may have like kind of miskicked it. It could have just straight been blocked. I couldn't see shit from the camera angle they showed on ESPN
Right.
Plus. But yeah, definitely I don't remember. I may be missing one. I don't remember like a shank on a punt, but he did at least once. He outkicked the coverage. I think they returned it to like midfield. But I think, I think my expectations are probably just very high for him. Where even when he kind of disappoints, he plays to like one of the better punters in the Big Sky level. Like this week, I think he led the Big Sky in average yards per punt with like 46. And it felt kind of like
and he's definitely been there more weeks than not with that, and it's just like, I kind of felt like when I don't remember if that was last week's presser or whatnot.
I think
or
it
2
was the
weeks
presser
ago.
that he mentioned that if I'm thinking
Or
of
is it Football 52? It might have been 52 where he started off where he was like disappointed about the kicking. I was like, get the hell out of here! Like,
I know for sure
Hunter
he
does a great
mentioned it
job
in the presser, but he may have mentioned it on Football 52 as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Like
I felt like good team effort all around. So everybody did a great job. I mean, would that field goal like helped us feel better about things? Sure, but like we're still in the scenario of like Weber could tie it up, and we did enough to fluster Munoz where he just throws a dog shit pass. Like I'm
just
not
off
even
the
sure
back
whether.
foot and
Yeah, I don't even know if there was a receiver on like a wide receiver on that side of the field. I was like, I saw the guy coming for the comeback route, but I didn't see the guy 7 yards past where
yeah,
Chappa was.
there was a guy underneath that he just threw the ball like 4 yards over his head.
Oof.
Just right to Cam Chappa. Love to see it. I think when that happened, I let out like a guttural scream from the kitchen and absolutely terrified Marcy. Because
I was holding
it
the
was
kid, so
finally
I was
real.
just doing like a mouth scream, like just like yeah. I was like, don't upset the kid, but like it's like good for us.
Yeah, it was cathartic. I almost wanted to hop on like right as the game finished up to record this, but it's probably good that we do have a day to like kind of process it, because I would have been like, well, Weber beat Montana. They got Montana coming up. Then Eastern Washington hasn't looked good this year. Then NAU, it's our turn, and Portland State sucks. I don't know, 5-7, but I think I've settled.
Possible.
It's possible. I think I've kind of come off of that a bit. But it's because I think the 5 fumbles like really. I keep focusing
that's hard to
on
reproduce.
like it was good. They put helmets on balls, but like yeah, you can't count on that. You're gonna need to not let them drive down and hope to take it away at the 1-yard line. So
Right. Then again, keeping them to 17 points when just a week or two before, Richie Munoz was out there throwing 6 tutties. I mean, going from 42 points plus, additional help from your team to 17, that's pretty noticeable. I mean, like, Think about it this way: is like we frustrated Tommy Millot and those guys enough that they changed from their strong tendency. We took Maverick MacIver from his usual 425 plus type game that he was on track to do each game and brought him down to 229. And then Richie Munoz, of course, a little bit of a roller coaster quarterback, so kind of a softball there, but he goes from 356 yards and 6 touchdowns down to what he was at 181,
Yeah,
171.
with a touchdown and an interception, 13 for 26. So
right.
He looked.
And I think it did scamper one in on us, but that's going to happen.
What? He looked much more mobile at the beginning of the game than he did by the end of the game. I don't really know what what injury he's dealing with on that right knee, but I wonder if something if he tweaked something or maybe he just wasn't comfortable, because he looked a lot more athletic and a little more willing to kind of tuck it and run in that first half. Stats may completely disagree with that, but from eye test, that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, it's interesting you saw that. I didn't see it so much as injury. I saw it more as hesitation almost, that he was starting to get scared to leave the pocket and get downfield. Almost want to attribute it to our D-line and linebackers getting a bit of pressure back there. I'm not sure what it looks like for TFLs and sacks on the day, but it definitely felt like there was a lot more pressure. Like there was a lot more that we were doing to really cause some havoc back there, so he didn't have as much time to work with. That's
a good point. That's very plausible too. I think I just saw the knee brace and was like, "Oh, he's hurt. He must be." Yeah. What else? I think the other big thing from this game, maybe my favorite part of this game, was the video Blake Olson put out. Shout out Blake, of UNC in the locker room, right, celebrating right after the win. I'll plug it into the podcast right here, video and audio, because I imagine Blake won't sue us. Just such a cool moment. From I've listened to probably how many football 52s are there, then the press probably 60 plus hours of Ed Lamb kind of talking in his very he doesn't drone, but it's very monotone. He doesn't have a lot of emotion when he talks typically. So just to see him kind of just completely let go and scream with the boys was a really cool moment.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of catches you off guard, but you're like, hell yeah, that's my coach right there. Damn, good for him. No. It's like you see your teachers in school and they're like, yep, no, this is history class. We're gonna talk about history, and then you see him out of the bar a couple years later, and you're like, hell yeah, good for you, Dave.
Mr. Epperly, you're cool. What?
Right.
But yeah, that was awesome. I think he's kind of something he said. I think it was Football 52 last week. Was this. We've lost a lot, but we don't have losers on this team. They're still bought in. They're still doing things the right way. So I think you could kind of see some of that that payoff, because talking to Darius Stewart a couple weeks ago, he was. And it was right after the SF Austin loss. So pretty demoralizing loss from what we were expecting. And he was still just completely I think I don't know if I put it in the story, but there was a quote that was what are we 15 in a row, 16 straight? That's not going to be for much longer. We're right on the edge. And so it's nice to see for those guys too. They've been putting in a lot of fucking work, doing things quote unquote the right way, building it from the ground, and it's good to see their belief pay off. Also my belief, because it was getting hard to carry water.
yeah, for the fans and for the media especially, it's Okay, how many more things can we say till it gets starts getting really sad of like, I was definitely getting on the coaches a lot of just like, we need to turn this around. Like we need to be honest about our mistakes and we need to be transparent and just freaking own up to it. Like, the season of the War of Words is usually only for preseason. It's not usually for week 6, 7, 8, and beyond. Like, you get into that point, it's like, okay, well, we're just trying to save jobs here, and I don't think anybody close to the program who has any sense of coolness to their head was thinking that Lamb was going to go anywhere, especially knowing kind of like inside track that things move a little bit slower at UNC anyways. But I think this takes the burden off of the fans a little bit of like, oh wow, we actually have a win. Like we're not dog water completely. Um, you know, it feels good to not be completely defeated because last season was hard. It was like, man,
Well
we had
said.
3 games that we pissed away. 2 of them were 100% the coach's fault of time management or just mismanagement of use of plays
Was
related to
that?
the clock.
I'm thinking. I know Weber's one for sure. Is the other one Portland State
100%.
that you're thinking of, or Idaho was close?
Uh,
There was a lot of close games, but I felt like Weber was the only one that we really pissed away. But I may have not thought that way in the moment. Like if you would
I
have
mean, in
talked to me
terms
right
of like
afterwards.
things coming down to two drives worths of mistakes and nothing more than that, it was definitely 3 games. Portland State was one of them. Trying to remember, Weber was the one that just aggressively
That
stuck in the
one
head
was
of
just
like
egregious. Like
timeouts
nobody
was not
throwing the
okay.
ball. Was it? What was it? They threw the ball like with when they needed to kill time, and they got picked one time, and then just
Yeah, they had
what
enough time to just they needed 1 first down, or they could take the clock down in 30 seconds, and they did not do either of that.
they threw
They threw
incomplete.
the ball and gave the ball back with 2 minutes and 15 seconds roughly, and that you
And
just can't do that.
yeah, it was over at that point because they had scored 3 straight touchdowns and or 2 straight at that point. And yeah, but back to this season. Sorry, I cut you off and derailed us a bit there. I think I had one thing I mentioned, like right before we hopped on here, was did this save Ed Lamb's job? And like you said, I don't think I don't if you were like if you're around the program, I don't think anybody thought Lamb was going anywhere after this season, even if they did go 0 and 12. But that's just such a tough look. I don't remember exactly how you put it, but you said something like he didn't save his job, but he definitely saved his credibility in the eyes of the fans, which I think is
Yeah,
perfect. Like I think you nailed it because
yeah, pretty much there. It's just like I don't think reliably anybody would go away from Lamb at this point. It's like if anybody has a track record, anybody has a skill set, that's where it's at. Like you don't
exactly.
walk away from something that literally has been done before somewhere else just because he got more traction and had a better like quicker success turnaround. I mean, that was also a magical season for Southern Utah. I mean, like we can't paint any other way than they had a Cinderella run into success. They just they were already jogging when they stepped into their glass slipper and kept going.
They were
You
also in the what was it, the Great West too, when he in his first couple years. They weren't in the Big Sky yet, so they had some tougher. I think it was like North Dakota, and they had some tough opponents, but they weren't playing like 6 ranked schools a year like UNC has the past couple years.
right, and to just come from probably what was that 2006 when we jumped up to come from almost let's see 16 out of the 18 years that we've been at Division 1 have been losing seasons. Like
And the
that's
other
just
two
so much,
were 500.
right?
Oh no,
Even
they
if
weren't. They were 6-5. You're right. But
even if UNC was in a different conference, you know, I mean, Big Sky gives a little bit of excuse to it of like, hey, everybody's good in the Big Sky. Well, not us, and like,
not us.
we're still trying to figure out how to be good, but not being the worst is the first step.
That's actually a great point. Because in my heart, I still believe we're better than Cal Poly. I believe we were better than them last year, and I believe we're better than them this year. Results obviously aren't bearing that out. But I wonder how much this win will kind of take like the weight of the world off of the team. You know, I think that was something Lamb said after Cal Poly was like they were just playing with like so much pressure, which isn't like necessarily an excuse. It's an excuse. It's not really a good excuse. But I wonder with this, they kind of have the monkey off their back. That's the phrase I was looking for earlier. Maybe they can play looser and actually convert on some of these games against teams that they should win, but where they have a chance to win, they're not like shooting themselves in the foot or panicking in these big moments because kind of that weight is off of their shoulders.
Right. Yeah, they should feel comfortable competing with the bottom dwellers. Every week shouldn't be, oh God, what are we going to do this week? Like, are we going to have 100 yards of offense? Are we going to, is our passing game going to be 12 for 80? Like, what are we going to do here? We should have a reliable expectation of we can go out, we can compete in the game. If it goes our way, great. If it doesn't, what do we do to improve that? And I think there's definitely been improvement, and it's definitely come pretty much in the last 2 weeks because man, they're sliding us about as far as they could to the brink of is this boat worth salvaging? And I think there's some patches on the boat. There's some holes that need to be plugged still, but I think for the most part, we're all on the consensus of like this boat's worth saving. We're not going over the cliff yet.
Yeah, I wonder how much of the offensive struggles this is completely just vibes based. I'm not really going off of I don't have any real information on this. I think UNC's like ideal offensive scheme is fairly complex compared to a lot of colleges, especially FCS colleges. Just with a lot of like pre-snap motion, a lot of like the hard counts, different substitution packages, and I wonder if that played in to like why the offense looks so terrible when they couldn't have like a couple weeks with a quarterback to get ready. You know, like I wonder if that played a part in Jonah Chong kind of like being thrown to the wolves doesn't feel like the right scenario. But if you only have 4 days to install an offense to fit a guy, I wonder how much you can realistically grasp, and if that like severely limited things more than in the moment I was given that credit for, if that makes any sense.
I I like and I also hate that take.
It means it's a
I,
good take.
I've had a lot of conversations with Mama Schleiger, and I think we both kind of come to the consensus because we were wondering this as well as like we have good athletes. Why can't they fucking show that in the field? Like some of the quarterbacks just look like absolute dog water, like NAIA type quarterbacks at some point of just not knowing what to do. Maybe it's because our receivers are just shit at getting separation. And we were thinking about it, and it's kind of like Friday Night Lights in a very simplified version of you
Movie
don't
or
need
show?
show.
Okay, just wanted
Love
to make sure.
both. I lean slightly towards the show, but you don't need 200 plays. You need to do 20 plays well. If you can do 20 plays well, you can switch it up. You can do relatively the same thing, just slightly augmented, whether it's if you're just moving from spread to trips, you can change it up just a little bit just to make it a little bit different, but still do the
Little
same
window
relative
dressing,
thing.
like
Yeah,
little different motions,
exactly.
different formations. Okay.
Exactly. Little window dressing. You don't have to know the whole encyclopedia and be able to be like, oh, we're going to pull out Statue of Liberty, but with reverse, and then we're going to throw it to Cheeks, but it's going to be thrown by Tuatelli. Like you don't have to sell the caboose You just have to sell the engine.
Ooh, here, keep talking. I need to write that down to put
So,
in the
I
episode
mean,
description.
it's just like, all these guys who are these college masterminds, that's great. That's great if everybody's on the same page, doesn't forget their assignment, isn't just like dog tired and trying to last for one more play because they're a little bit better than the guy on the sideline. They're just trying to get their reps in. You know, you don't have to be you don't have to be a Kyle Shanahan. You don't have to be, you know, um, just the Dan Lannings of the world where you're drawing up this like hook, ladder, screen, over the top seam, flea flicker type shit. Like, that's great and all. It's great if it works, but if it doesn't, it's gonna be a big old bomb in your face, and it doesn't matter what you're trying to do.
I think I agree. That's a great way to put it. I think
Like for me,
it
better execution is better than trying to be the world's best strategist. Like when they
that's
had that end around with, I think it was Stewart,
yeah,
and they
on the
had
touchdown.
Tuatelli out blocking for him. That wasn't a fancy play. That was an off tackle run to the right tackle, and just they executed it great. The line set it up just enough. Tuatelli
That
blocked
was
one guy where it got in the way of the other guy, and Stewart had the cone right there.
While I do agree, I think that was a fantastic play call. They had handed the ball up the middle like 14 straight times and
Right.
with great success. And then I don't think Weber was ready at all for that end around. But I get what you're saying. I think it gives me some hope because going back to something I know I talked about a good chunk last year, um, I think it feels like and what Lamb is kind of say he's like building it for the long term. He's where I think these growing pains early may pay off in the way like once we're not on the fifth quarterback of the year and like if we can get one quarterback through the whole season in 2 years, like this groundwork may be very beneficial if like the offense could be running as like a well-oiled machine, which is a pipe dream at this point with everything we've seen. But I think there is like some level of you there's a phrase I'm thinking of. I just can't quite put it into words.
I
Like
mean,
the
I get where you're coming from that. Like of like if everything goes right and we do this, we're on track for this in this amount of
I
years.
I think it
That's
raises the ceiling in the future is like it lowers the floor now, but I think it can raise the ceiling. So maybe in a game in 4 years where UNC's in the playoff hunt and they can take down a team like Montana State this year, because even if they don't quite have the guys, they have a little something in the bank, I guess.
I think that's cute and that's pretty until shit hits the fan and real life hits you in the face with a 300
Yeah.
pound lineman and you're like, oh, we can't do that anymore. That is out of the books. I mean that's great and all. I mean, it's wonderful to put 5-year plans on a piece of paper. I'd love to know with all those recruiters and whatnot how many people's 5-year plans actually go according to plan because I think if it went according to plan, you got hella lucky. Like, you know, for everything to go the way that you want it to, either you're running the conference or you had a damn good stretch of luck. Because, like, sometimes it's just next man up. And I think that's where, that's where we've been for all too long. But I think part of that's been next man up, but we don't have a plan. We're
We
just,
don't have a next man.
yeah, we don't have a toilet on the boat. We're just shitting in the middle of it and hoping that we get to shore before, you know, shit goes overboard, literally. Um, but I think it's nice and all to have a plan, but you need to have backups because I think it was wildly clear this coaching staff and this team didn't know what the hell to do once Castelli went down. And that was a scary time. It was like, oh shit, we don't know what the hell we're doing. We're coaching scared out there. We're coaching not to lose. And I think we've kind of come around to the point where it's like, okay, we got our teeth bashed in, we got knocked out, we got thrown against the wall and then dragged on the ground. Now I think we're actually ready to brush ourselves off and get back up and like throw a couple punches. And Weber was, I think, that first punch back that we landed against the conference of just like, hey, like we're not willing to lay down this year. We want to fight. We want to not make it easy for you guys to just use us like the floor mat that everybody thinks that we are.
Good point. I will say kind of my last thing on this. I think we may be looking at it in a bit of a different way. But I think UNC offers I think there's a better chance of things going according to plan here than at like a different program. In the way that the administration's going to have a lot of patience. I think Lamb would have got a third year no matter what. I think he's not really doing it through like the portal, which I think is just naturally more adds a
I think he
level.
did it more through the portal than he bargained on. I think he recruited really well in Colorado, and then he still kind of gave the shtick of like, oh, we're in the portal, but we're looking for Colorado kids. I think he enjoyed it more than he let on. I think he found a couple pieces and he was like, ooh, like this portal thing's not all bad if I can bring these Colorado kids back. And like, there's a few not Colorado kids, or a few that's like they're Colorado, but it's a bit of a stretch. But I think he opened up to it more than he thought he would.
That's fair. I don't see. Maybe I might have a pie in the eye like view it, or is that the pie in the sky? I don't know what phrase I'm getting a little fast and loose here. I wonder how much of that was it feels like he wants to build the future through high school kids, and I wonder how much of this year's portal class was like looking around and being like, oh shit, there's a lot of gaps to fill like right now. Which that may prove me wrong next year. UNC gets like 15 more from the portal, and then but I think building it through high school kids there's like a less chance of I think there's a less chance of a guy where UNC was his only D1 offer. They built him up from a freshman. He's a fifth-year senior. That guy is much more likely to stay than a guy who came in from dropped down from, I don't know, San Jose State and is here for 2 years, plays really well, but now he's got another Mountain West offer. I think, I think there's a better chance for those like high school recruits to kind of stay and be able to build that foundation. But you're right. A 5-year plan is very hard to pull off. Like without at least 3 or 4 things going very, very wrong along the way. And you just have to hope you can kind of right the ship by the time you get to that 5-year mark.
And I think we can respect Lamb for trying to take the wholesome family approach that he's been peddling and whatnot. And a lot of parents love it, just talking to a couple of them, they were discouraged, but they weren't checked out going into the Weber week. And since Weber has happened, they've been a lot more relieved, feeling a lot more like, okay, like it's not a great year, but like I'm feeling okay about where my kid's at and whatnot. And obviously, what degree those parents feel like that all kind of depend on where their kid's at and what kind of reps and they're getting and whatnot. But the general consensus is like, okay, yeah, Weber made us feel a lot better, but like even then, like we were disappointed how the season was going, but not checked out on Lamb. So I think we're still doing okay.
Yeah, I admittedly have been drinking. I've drank the Kool-Aid from really like over the off season. I believed, but like I think I really dug in kind of before this year. And part of it I think is strictly I want this to be the right hire. Part of it is he
I mean, if this isn't, who is?
Exactly. That's part of it too. There's part of it is like I have an immense respect for Ed Lamb, the man, that like I just wanted like it's as hopeful as it is like tangible results driven. So I'm very glad to see this too. I don't really think that was the point I intended to make when I started talking, but I'm back at just being happy we won.
Well, and for those impatient fans and those ones who haven't been around long or haven't been as invested and are just kind of coming back to the program, and it's like, oh, is this guy really the answer? Is this one guy who turned it around one time the answer? And I think the thing that still gives me the most hope about Lamb, and the most comfortableness about him, because because he's done it before at a program with arguably less resources,
I
even though
think
we have
less
more
resources
sports.
somehow. Like from what
Yeah,
I
like
understand, I think it is
Southern
actually
Utah's
less.
like worse off than us, but I think we spend less per sport than them because
Okay.
that might have been when we still had tennis. But even down to 11 sports, I feel like I'm pretty sure we still spend less per sport because we offer so many.
Mhm.
Um, but essentially the thing other than his resume and his track record is something he said on 52 is, um, he couldn't take Jim Harbaugh's job and do what Jim Harbaugh did at Michigan, and Jim Harbaugh couldn't come to UNC and do what Lamb does. Like, it's two different worlds. And he says that about Steve Sarkisian too, which
Yeah, because they play.
wild fucking
I think
circles that
roommates in college is just nuts to think. At
yeah.
least
And then
teammates. I think they were roommates.
and he was under Harbaugh at San Diego when they were both young in their coaching careers, and just like either way you put it, like he's he's real enough to say like they couldn't come here and understand the problems that UNC has, even with them being at the pinnacle of college football, and he couldn't understand the problems that they have coming from the not quite the bottom of D1, but like the lower success of D1.
Pretty close to the bottom historically. But I think I do think of that a lot actually. And the moment I point to whenever like because he's mentioned it a few times between Harbaugh and Sarkisian, I think, is I can't imagine Steve Sarkisian after like a midweek press conference with like a fan blogger, like who asked him for the all 22 film, and then he just like walked me down to like the war room and was like, "Yeah, talk to this guy." Like, yeah, I just can't imagine like the look somebody at UNC or at USC, oh, he's at Texas or at
Either
Michigan,
way,
yeah,
yeah.
to like the look on the coach's face if they got that request. So it's like a completely different job. As you could see when Bobby Houck went to UNLV and didn't have the Montana resources, he went like 4-30 in 3 years or something. I don't know if it was quite that bad, but it was very, very poor. Also, pie in
Right.
the sky is 100% a phrase, so, and I used it 100% right.
There you go.
I need everybody to know that.
I just figured Chris is hungry.
All right. No preview moving forward. So we have a bye this week, which is good in front of Montana. Also sucks that Montana also has a bye this week. I thought that was going to be an advantage we could snag, but
Seems like the first time in a while that multiple Big Sky teams are matching up on buys. I wonder if that was on purpose from
oh,
Commissioner Worcestershire.
that's a Commissioner Tom. That's a great point actually, because I wonder if the 12 games that cuts out a bye. So Cal Poly was coming off a bye, but they're the only Big Sky team to play 11 this year. So I wonder if that has something to do with it. That's a good point. That would be good scheduling, I think. Like it sucks when you're trying to get an advantage on another team, but like for just fairness sake, I think I'm on board for that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
No, just man, does it feel great to
It's the
not be
happiest I've
completely
been.
defeated?
I was telling Marcy, like, I've been pretty good. Abilene got me, I will say. I've been pretty good though at not letting UNC football ruin my mood. I didn't realize how much a UNC win could like improve my mood. I've been like walking on
Right.
air for 2 days. I'm just everything just seems a little brighter, a little bit better.
Right. No, it's definitely a nice change. So let's keep on changing.
All right. If you like what we do, please, please, please leave a comment, subscribe, like, all of the above. I'm gonna be putting these on YouTube moving forward. I've been meaning to for a while, but it felt weird just doing it mid-season. But this is as good a time as any following the win. So we'll have it up there too. Let us know. Let us know what you want to see, what you want to hear. If you don't like what we're doing, leave a nice message in Ben's inbox, but be polite. You know, everybody's got to get better. If UNC football is doing it, so can the online haters. All right, have a good one.